Well, good afternoon. I appreciate everyone coming today. Very pleased to be here today with Senate Majority Leader Richardville and Speaker Bolger. A very important topic this afternoon, talking about the city of Detroit. I know there's been reports out there, but I thought it best to hold a press conference to address these things directly. I would make a comment that a number of the things I won't be able to answer in terms of some of the questions, and I bear your indulgence because I'm under a mediation order of confidentiality on a number of points. But before I get into the specifics about what we're talking about in terms of the state and our possible participation in a settlement, I want to really set the stage with the history appropriately. With respect to the city of Detroit, I've firmly taken the position, even before I was in office, that if Michigan's to be a great state again, we need Detroit on a positive path to success. And we need to work hard on that. So I think over the last several years, many of us have been very diligent about partnering with the city of Detroit to help it get through these difficult times. And it's gone through a steady process of that. If you go back to 2011, it began with trying to partner the best we could. And we've kept that spirit of partnership up this entire time. But could we simply partner to achieve great results in terms of improvement? That wasn't totally successful. We went to the consent agreement. We went through that process. We then went to emergency managers. And then ultimately we ended up in bankruptcy. Bankruptcy was a last resort. But one thing I'd remind people is the bankruptcy was not about a new problem for Detroit. The focus of all these efforts have been on saying, let's find a solution to 60 years of problems. This is about getting Detroit to be stable, to grow again, to give good services to its citizens, to help people in all parts of Detroit, whether we're talking Midtown, downtown, the riverfront, but particularly the neighborhoods. The comeback of Detroit needs to include all elements of the city for the long term, and we need to stay focused on making that happen. So this has been an ongoing practice in terms of working together. Now we're in the bankruptcy, and one thing I've had that question that people say people may seek bankruptcy after this a case. What I can tell you is no one's going to want to go seek bankruptcy. This is not an experience one should want to be part of if you ever have a choice. It's a very difficult process. And it's true by definition. If you're in bankruptcy, basically you're in a situation where you have more claims on your resources than you have resources to satisfy those claims. So in effect, there isn't a totally positive outcome possible. There are challenges to this situation. The question is how do you get through it effectively and constructively as possible so you can move forward and the participants can move forward in a positive, constructive way. And so that's one of the great issues we find in this situation is how to deal with that. The other part is you have assets at risk. And that's one of the topics there have been many reports on, and just one illustration would be the DIA, the Detroit Institute of Arts. So it's a situation where it's difficult to see how you come out with winners across the board, but you need to get through it because that will create an environment for long-term growth and success to get through the bankruptcy. One of the parts of bankruptcy that I am very thankful for, that I do admire, is Judge Rhodes and his efforts to say you should try to work this out among the parties. And that's really the mediation process. So I want to be very thankful to the fact there's a team of mediators led by Chief Judge Rosen that have been working hard to say, can a number of the parties come together to get a constructive resolution of this situation in this very trying time? He should be complimented and his team should be complimented, and the judge should be complimented for that effort. They have been working hard, the mediators. I've had multiple meetings with multiple mediators, and that will be an ongoing process as many other people have. One thing in particular that I want to give the credit to the mediators for being successful is their effort with the foundation community. And the foundation community, both local and national, that are participating in what you've seen in the press deserve a huge shout out for coming to the table. It's unprecedented to find foundations looking to use their resources to solve a situation like this. And I'll reinforce what they wrote in a column they put together to say that the resources they're talking about would not be at the expense of their commitments to the community or the state in some other fashion. This is an incremental commitment to solve a problem. And in the spirit of what they've said, they've publicly disclosed some of the conditions that they have as part of their interest in settling this situation. They've said as part of a settlement, and they would only do this if it's part of a settlement among the city, the state, the employees, the retirees, and the unions, that their resources would go to the pensioners, to the retirees, in terms of minimizing the cuts that they would have to face. In addition, the DIA would be a protected asset according to their conditions. It's truly admirable to have them come to the table with resources that, according to public reports, are in the range of $330 million. As part of that process, they've encouraged people to join them in participating. Now I'm getting to what we're talking about specifically here today. I was very much encouraged by their actions. After careful analysis and great discussions with leaders that are standing here with me and leaders also in the Democratic Party side of both chambers of the legislature, we've had a lot of positive discussions. And so I'm here today to say I recommend that we move forward with being part of a settlement. In terms of what does that mean? I'm recommending that we look to make an investment of up to $350 million over a period of 20 years to join with the foundation money to help resolve the bankruptcy case. Now, we should have conditions to also how we would do this. To put it in context, some of the conditions that I think are important. First, it would only happen in the event that there is a settlement between the city, the state, the unions, the employees, and the retirees. The second thing is that these resources should go to the retirees. Again, the idea is how to minimize the negative impact, particularly for lower income retirees in a difficult situation like this. The third thing is that we need to look forward to strong management of whatever resources are being set aside for retirees. In particular, I think there should be a requirement for independent fiduciary management of the pension resources in terms of making sure they're being properly managed. There are a number of other conditions, but I would say you can look to say we're being consistent with both the foundations and what they're asking for, and some additional ones that I'm not going to disclose at this point because it wouldn't be appropriate given our discussions with the mediators. This is an opportunity to really resolve things. This is a significant commitment of resources. One thing I would tell you, though, one of the sources I would look towards, and again, what I'm recommending at this point in time is that we look to tobacco settlement dollars as a good potential source to look at, in the sense that it's either one that would not be subject to annual appropriation if we were to do it on a periodic payment basis, or again, there's an opportunity in discussions with the mediators to offer a bond that would be the present value of that stream and securitize that bond with tobacco settlement dollars. Again, there are maybe other options, but I want to put that out as what I think is a very viable tool to use in this situation. Another thing I would mention, though, about what is this? What do you want to call it? What would you describe it as? This is a settlement. This is not a bailout. And I want to be very, very clear about that. This is not a bailout of paying the debts directly of the city of Detroit. This is not a bailout of dollars for Detroit's debts. This is not a bailout of banks and other creditors. This is focused in on helping reduce and mitigate the impact on retirees. It's focused on protecting assets. It's focused on showing good results and allowing the city to move forward by hopefully resolving this case in a more positive rather than a more negative way, faster and better. That could have dramatic savings both in terms of dollars and time. Because this is really about settling it so we can grow the city of Detroit. The point here is this is a chapter that none of us wish we had to live through. But it's after 60 years of negative things going on, it had to be done. My view is if we can participate in something to settle it more effectively, faster, and better, that's a tremendous advantage for all of Michigan. And again, we have retirees from Detroit across all corners of Michigan. We have fabulous assets that we want to see continue in Detroit and Michigan. But the other one is the overall image and approach and how we interact with one another as Michiganders. It would be more positive to get this behind us. And how many of us have traveled somewhere in the country or the world and had to listen about this bankruptcy? To see it happen for a much shorter period versus a longer period because there's a settlement, I view that as having tremendous value to the state of Michigan and to all of us. So that's where I believe this is a settlement offer. A settlement offer in conjunction with the foundations, and I hope other parties. Again, we're going to encourage other parties to participate and add resources to this pool, but to create a situation where it will not make retirees whole, but it would significantly reduce the burdens that they would otherwise face to avoid safety social net issues and other problems in their lives. So I'm very excited to be here. I've talked longer than normal on this topic because it is so important. But I also want to give an opportunity to say I'm very excited about the support I'm seeing so far. Again, I've not asked for votes. I've not asked for legislation to move forward yet, but I've had very constructive discussions. It's great to be standing here with the majority leader and the speaker. I've had positive discussions, and we have had positive discussions with the minority leader in both houses, both minority leaders. So this is a case where I hope there's ongoing dialogue, but this is a major step forward. With that, I would like to turn it over to Senate Majority Leader Richardville. And again, I want to thank both these fine gentlemen for joining me today, because this is a courageous act, but it's the right act to say we're taking care of Michiganders to move us all farther and faster together in a settled fashion. So thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well, I'll only speak for a few minutes. I think it was Christmas Eve when Judge Rosen first asked me to come and visit with him to talk about a conceptual settlement. And I told him at that point in time we would certainly be pleased to entertain that kind of a proposal, which was finally put together just earlier this week. I think yesterday I saw the final proposal. The Michigan Senate, and I've talked with the leaders of both my party and as well as the leaders of the Democrat Party, are excited to look at this proposal. We have some questions. There are some T's that need to be crossed, some I's that need to be dotted. But in general, I think it's something that is very positive and being received that way. So we will consider it over the next few weeks. We will look in detail, and we're here to help as best as we can. So thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this afternoon.
Thank you, Mr. Majority Leader, Mr. Governor, and I welcome my colleagues from the House on the Democratic side of the aisle, including the Black Caucus Chair, Tommy Stallworth. It's good to see you here. A cash bailout of the city with a business-as-usual attitude would not achieve meaningful results, but neither would turning our back on the state's largest city, because if it were to fail, it would drag Michigan's recovery with it and potentially burden taxpayers with Detroit's liability. On that point, while I disagree with this position, we need to protect taxpayers from the burden of the Attorney General's argument that they should be held liable for $3.5 billion in Detroit pension debt. Now, there is anger in Detroit. There is angst outstate. But I won't cut off taxpayers' nose to spite Detroit's face, nor will I ask the state's taxpayers to make a bad investment. That's why we must look at how we can work together to move Detroit out of bankruptcy as quickly as possible. This is the right thing to do in order to serve the Michigan citizens who live in Detroit, the pensioners who devoted their lives to work for the people, and the taxpayers throughout the rest of the state who deserve to be protected. Thank you.
Questions? Sarah's going to.
Yep, and I apologize. If everyone could raise your hands, we're going to try and do this a little bit more orderly this time because I know there are tons of questions, and we've got Dave on that end with a microphone and Josh over here with a microphone. So if you could raise your hands, and we'll try and make sure we're going back and forth and doing this as fast as we can.
Thank you. Hi, Governor. I know you wouldn't talk publicly about legal advice you've received, but, and it plays a little bit into what Speaker Bolger said, is the decision to intervene in part based on legal advice the state has received?
No, I wouldn't say that's a driving force. What I would say is if you look at the options here and say if there's an opportunity to settle this case versus not settling the case, I think you can find from any attorney, they'll give you good advice to say you're going to save a lot in resources, both in terms of dollars and time. And when I say time, this is the time that we could use for having Detroit recover instead of time people are talking about Detroit being in a negative situation. So I view that as one of the major advantages to being proactive about putting a settlement together and being part of a settlement offer.
Chris, over here. I'll go back there.
Governor, you talked about fiduciary oversight for the pension system. Do you want to place it under a different controlling authority, the pension systems?
Yeah, the principle I want to get across on that, and what I'm being very clear that I think it's important that there be independent fiduciary management of those pension assets, and I am not suggesting nor are we requiring it be done by the state. Again, the point is independent financial management, because for the two plans, one plan, the police and fire plan, tended to do much better, had some pretty good advice at various points in time. The general retiree system had major problems, and I think those are well documented. So as part of this, if resources are going in to help assure pensions for people, I think it's very important that there be really professional management of those resources. Again, I'm not going to speculate on that. What I would say is that's part for the mediation process to work through. It's really about who's making investment decisions, setting portfolio requirements. There are a lot of good professional management people out there, and there's a lot of track record to say it could be done that way and does not have to involve a lot of the potential problems that have been historic with respect to at least the general retiree system.
Rick, back there.
Governor, what purpose would this tobacco settlement revenue be used for were it not being diverted into being used for the for this purpose of the Detroit pension guarantees?
Yeah, Rick, there's a number of things that the dollars are currently being used for. They include a number of human service elements. There are pieces of Medicaid and some other human service elements. There are parts of economic development going to the MEDC for business attraction and such. What I would say is we haven't gotten to the point of deciding that, and that's something that would be part of the budget considerations, because the idea here is not to harm other programs in order to do this settlement.
Just to piggyback a little bit off of the pension board question, how do you anticipate those that control these boards to give up control of those assets, which range in the billions of dollars, for this type of settlement?
Well, I don't fight with people. This is really a case of we're offering something that I think is very constructive and useful. What I would say is there's an opportunity here to settle something, and again, I'm not getting into the question of having a board or no board, but when it comes down to making investment decisions and setting portfolio balances and making decisions about those things, I think professionals should be making those calls.
Chad, and then we'll go to Kyle and then Jonathan.
With the board here, do you want to transfer the management? You talk about independent management. You want to transfer the management to MERS, and I'm not talking about Kyle's organization. I'm talking about the municipal employee retirement system. Do you want to transfer it to them?
No, specifically, I think I answered that already to say that's not part of the conditions or requirements to say it has to come to the state. This should not be viewed as the state trying to take over pension assets. I want to totally separate that out because that's one of the issues that I actually would anticipate. If you go out in this world, I think you can find a lot of very competent parties that know how to manage pension funds.
Would there be any condition that those who agree to this deal would no longer be able to sue the state at a later date to try to be held liable for pensions under the state constitution?
Well, again, what I would say is I already made it clear that this should be part of a settlement and a release on the litigation related to this whole situation, because the point of doing a settlement is to say, let's put this behind us so we don't have ongoing lawsuits with respect to the parties that get in the settlement. Let's put that to bed so we can all focus on growing Detroit. Isn't that what we all agree on? I don't know of anyone that doesn't agree. The answer to our long-term situation here has to be a thriving Detroit. The neighborhoods, the downtown, all of us are doing better off because that's going to help every corner of Michigan. Did you want to add something?
Front row team, Kyle, Jonathan,
No, that's
and then
fine.
Thanks, guys. Could the leaders talk about the legislative route this is going to take? What kind of bill are we looking at? How long is it going to take? What chamber is it going to start in? And when does it got to be out of here?
I can just tell you a few things. We've participated somewhat in these discussions, and in answer to one of the questions just a moment ago, I think what some of my caucus members in particular said is they want to make sure that this doesn't happen again, that we don't have the same situation recurring a few years down the road. And I think that's why there's oversight, not necessarily replacement or anything like that, but at least some kind of professional oversight that we would demand in order to finish a settlement like this. Exactly where it's going to start, which chamber, what it looks like, a lot of those things still have to be decided. So we haven't gotten to that point yet. All we have agreed to is to take a hard look at it, to vet it publicly, and to make sure that we are very thorough in that analysis.
I would only add months, not years, but that's because a couple of us only have months, not years. We hope the other guy has years ahead of us. I would agree with what the majority leader said. We're dedicated to working on this. I believe this offer is the right offer. I believe this offer is right for the full state of Michigan as well as the citizens and pensioners of Detroit. But the exact form, a lot of details still need to be worked out with the conditions that are being offered to the mediator, with the conditions that the mediator is working on to make sure that our members receive a comfort level that exactly what the majority leader said, that this doesn't happen again, that this is a one-time investment in the future of Detroit's success.
Speaker Bolger touched on this a little bit, but Governor, how are you selling this proposal to lawmakers from other parts of the state, and how will you describe it to residents in other parts of the state who might see some state money go to Detroit here?
No, I appreciate it. The first thing I'd say is I don't view it as selling something. This is just trying to step up to take a very difficult situation and do the right thing. And it's very much in line to say, if you have a situation like this, isn't it better to try to settle it, to be proactive? So I view it as the state coming to the table to say, we're willing to be proactive to solve a very difficult situation by saying, here's an offer that provides significant resources to help minimize pension cuts, to help protect art, to help with the image of the state, to help save resources for multiple parties in this, to actually say, shouldn't we get this chapter closed so we can grow Detroit in a very positive, constructive way? And I say that this isn't about who gets credit for it. This is saying the foundations came to a very similar conclusion. They may emphasize somewhat different things, but there's a big pot of resources here that I hope people certainly want to avail themselves to and would take, have the opportunity to participate in, and it just requires settling this in a constructive fashion.
Governor, how do you deal with the risk that other creditors will lay claim to some of this money, that they'll say, well, that's nice that you want to help out the pensioners, but hey, what about us? There's no reason you can just overlook us.
Yeah, well, again, this is where our interest is. These are incremental dollars that wouldn't otherwise be part of the bankruptcy process. And beyond that, I really can't comment much because, again, that's a question for the mediators, the lawyers, to work through that process. But this is one reason I'd emphasize this is not a bailout. This is not geared towards taking care of bondholders, bankers, or people on Wall Street. This is geared towards Michiganders that worked really hard in our state and now have a pension and are looking at a difficult situation. How do we improve that situation?
We'll go back to Tim here and then Dave.
For the two legislative leaders, please. Mr. Speaker, I know you haven't had time to do a nose count, but will this be an easy...
And if I did, I wouldn't give it to you right now.
Thank you. I appreciate that, sir. But is this an easy sell for you and your caucus?
No, there's nothing easy about it. There's nothing easy about Detroit's bankruptcy. But I will ask my legislators to imagine two scenarios. A year from now, Detroit is out of bankruptcy and growing in success, and that success is participating in the state continuing to drive forward. Or the other scenario is Detroit is mired in a protracted legal battle and still mired in bankruptcy, and that is dragging down the full state. As the world sees Michigan through Detroit's eyes, as the world sees Detroit when they hear the word Michigan. And so I think it is in all of our best interest for Detroit's future success. And so this won't be easy. There won't be anything easy about this, but we've tackled uneasy things before, and I expect us to continue to do what is right.
Members, is this an easy sell in your caucus, sir?
Well, I would agree with this, Speaker. There's no such thing as an easy sell, especially when you're talking about something this complicated and of this magnitude. What I would turn toward, though, is not just the retirees in the city of Detroit. And you've got people that are senior citizens that are in Detroit that are nervous, they're concerned that they're not going to have their health care benefits. They're not going to have the full payment of their pensions. They're sitting there right now in Detroit, but it's not just Detroit. They're in Oakland County. They're in outer parts of Wayne County. They're in Monroe County. They're in Macomb. Some of them live in the UP now. There are a whole lot of people across the state of Michigan that are looking to see what we're going to do to put them at ease when they have to come home at night. And most of these people, like I said, are senior citizens, retirees, and I'm looking at it more from that personal benefit. How do we take care of the people from the state of Michigan?
Kathy, and I think we're going to be out of time. If we can move that in the next 4 minutes, we might be able to do one more. But right now, I think Kathy will be the close. So Dave, go ahead.
Governor, how would you, what does this mean for the average pensioner out there? Any sense of how much money, I guess, less they would get cut?
Yeah, I really can't comment at this point in time. That will come out when the plan of adjustment would get filed in terms of the city putting forward their plan, because again, this settlement offer hopefully can be incorporated in that. And that's where the point, if additional resources come into this, that helps improve that situation even more. But what I can tell you is, from my understanding, is it is material. I mean, if you talk about essentially, basically $700 million we're talking about right now, that's a significant investment.
Just as a logistical matter, the redirection of the tobacco settlement money, is that part of the budget process? Is it something that you can do? Is it an appropriation? How does it work?
Yeah, well, again, this is not something I'm doing. This is about working in partnership, and that's why I really appreciate these two fine partners and a number of people sitting out here that are partners in this whole process being here. If it's tobacco settlement, it's a statutory process to amend legislation, redefining how much is set aside. And a similar case would most likely be true if it was to involve securitization and doing a bond. Given that, then there could be some budget implications. So when I do my budget presentation, in terms of planning purposes, I'll be basically assuming we're moving on this path and adjust accordingly.
For one more, anyone? I mean, I guess Chris hasn't had a chance to ask a question. Sorry, Chad.
You said that it's not a bailout. And no matter how often you say it and how forcefully you say it, people are still going to view it that way as such, because you're taking money that could have gone to roads or somewhere across the state that's going to be sent to Detroit pensioners. So how do you counteract that it's not a bailout?
Well, I think it's very clear. A bailout, in my view, is basically you're just contributing dollars towards repaying debt without getting anything in return. And again, that would be to all creditors across the board, where this is actually to benefit people in our state. And again, I very much appreciate the comments from both the leader and the speaker, putting on a personal level. Again, the retirees, I had folks that didn't even have a pension. They lived off their Social Security and their savings account. So those are the kind of things that if you can help resolve that and mitigate the impact, again, there will be cuts. But how do you minimize the impact of that? Again, this is why no one wants to be in bankruptcy. So this is not a bailout, this is a settlement to resolve something not only for them, but to allow us to move forward faster and better. Because the best opportunity is Detroit growing and thriving faster and better is going to be a resource generator for every corner of Michigan. From the city to the state to the retirees to all people of the state of Michigan in terms of giving us a better outcome.
Thank you, everyone. We don't have any more questions. I don't know if anybody has any last closing comments. Otherwise, thank you very much.
Thank you.